time to get showered with moldy blown in. Yeah, that's a lot of mold. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Hurricane room, day 2. So yesterday we were in here and we prepped the whole floor for the impending disaster and mess that was about to come in. And then we tore down all of the plaster from the 2 exterior walls, and we tore off most of the lath from those walls as well. You can see that we left a little bit here, and that is because there's some that is stuck underneath the trim from the window. So that's where we're going to be picking up today, is we're going to carefully label all the different pieces of the window trim and then pull that off so that we can carefully get it back in place eventually. Then we're going to take down the remaining lath. We can add it to this big pile here. And then we're going to tackle opening up these walls, because as you can see, it's not just, once we got the plaster and lath off, it wasn't the studs. We have on these walls, we have a extra layer of wood planking here, and unfortunately we are seeing a lot of mold in it. Because they shot in blown in back in the 90s, and then we've had water infiltrating, so the water got in, soaked in the blown in, and then couldn't evaporate. So guess what it had to do? It just started causing mold instead. So I suspect once we start opening these up, we're just going to be showered with disgusting, soggy, moldy blown in. And then behind it, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more mold. Kind of like right here. You can see there's a bunch of mold here. I know it's really hard to see what is blown in and what is mold. The two, especially on camera, it's not showing up really well, so the two are looking a little bit indistinguishable. Everything that's 3D is just blown in, that's kind of fallen through the cracks. But there's definitely, like back here, a lot of that is mold. So that's gonna have to be dealt with, and I suspect we're gonna see a lot more down in here. Yay! Not looking forward to tackling that, but we're gonna put it off a little bit by tackling the window frame first. So, thing is, it's like a bunch of different pieces of trim. Are you thinking it's just this outer one?
Yeah. I think that's a one piece.
No, this is separate.
Huh?
This is separate, it looks like. Let's just carefully start prying it off. Oh, I had the little baby one. I had the little baby crowbar.
I just pulled three different attachments for 3 different window coverings in one corner. Wild. Oh my god, wild is my hair. Woo-hoo-hoo!
Now, was getting all of the trim off the window a daunting task? Yes, absolutely. I'm actually mildly surprised to hear myself, in retrospect, saying that we were procrastinating the mold with the molding, because quite honestly, I'm more concerned about removing this trim and damaging it in the process than I am just to remove a bit of soggy blown-in insulation. Either way, this was the first window that we've done in the house, and while historic wood windows are generally all constructed in a similar fashion, they're definitely not identical, and ours is definitely a little strange, a little bit outside of the mold. You'll probably notice in a second, but we don't actually have weight pockets, so our windows are not actually counterweighted. I've actually asked a few local old house nerds if this is a common feature in the area, if there are other windows like ours out there, or like what is the regional systems that people were using in a house of this age to keep their windows open, because there are no pocket wakes, which is definitely the type of historic window that I'm the most familiar with. I definitely remember working on the lead weights in the home that I grew up in, like changing the cords and rehanging them and everything. So it was definitely a little strange and very fun to see how these are constructed. And it's just the first indication that our windows are a little bit different from what I'm used to.
The nails are proving a bit tricky. You really don't want to come out. Honestly, after 100 years in the same spot, I probably wouldn't either.
Right now there's a nail here, but the nails are a bit going downwards. So that if some wants to go out by up, the other one wants to go up straight.
So going in and trying to take off all this trim was definitely something that was a bit of an unknown quantity. We weren't sure exactly how it was going to go, the perfect order to remove all the wood in, plus of course you don't want to ruin or damage the wood. And then there's about 1.5 million layers of paint on top of all of this, which of course conceals where all the nails are. It was just very, very slow going.
It's time for the power tools!
I've of course got it super sped up here on camera, so it looks like it was very easy and very fast, but actually we were going super slow, taking our time. We were being quite painstaking about it actually, because we needed to learn how this specific window was constructed.
Yeah, because these are fragile. This would have gone through. I think now I still have the punch. So with proper support behind, you can go and punch them later.
Obviously, future windows are going to come apart much faster because we'll already have gone to school on this one, but you know, the first one always goes slowly, that's for sure. And I was pretty insistent that once every piece came off, I would immediately label it, not only with what part of the window it came from, but also which room it came from, in which side of which room, because I know how these renovations go, and even more with our specific schedule where we're traveling frequently and, you know, we're not always working on the house nonstop every day of every week of every year. So it might be a while before we get back to this window. Also because, you know, I want to strip it down. There's going to be just a lot of things that need to happen before these windows go back in. Labeling is essential. If you've seen my videos before, you'll know that I'm a big fan of labeling things. I've done this before many times so that they can go back where they came from.
That's a naked window.
Nice, there's like progress.
It always takes a little bit more time at the start. It's a little bit of advanced planning, but trust me, when you get to the end of the process and everything is clearly labeled and you know exactly where it goes, it is such a time saver. It also saves on frustration as well. So yeah, 100% making sure I'm labeling everything the instant that it comes off, and it's absolutely going to be worth it when I have to put this window back together one day, very far down the road.
Good window. Yeah, there's a piece of wood like this under. The casing was pieces of wood piece here, and that goes through. This piece arrives on it, and then that's under, and that's the original bottom, kind of.
If you need a website and you're not already using Squarespace, what are you doing? Squarespace is the quickest and easiest way to build out a page. They have a ton of pre-made templates, a great library of color palettes, a wide selection of fonts, plus if you want to get really deep with the design, you can add your own custom CSS. Now, of course, design is only one aspect of having a website, especially if your company needs some sort of virtual storefront, and Squarespace makes that super easy too. They've got all these tools that are going to allow you to set up product listings for things from physical items to digital downloads or memberships. And if you want to keep up with your customers, you can send newsletters with new stock updates, life updates, pictures of your cute dog, thank yous, whatever you like. So check out Squarespace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/JanaMakes to get 10% off your first purchase of website or domain. Yes, once again, the height of fashion. Anyway, we just finished having our lunch break, and we're back, and we're basically at the point where we are ready to tear down these big boards back here. Now, not all of them can come down because like some of them extend into the closet on that corner, and then some of them surely extend into this wall and continue going. But the ones that we can take off, we're going to. This look, it's fashion. It's honestly better with the mask. I just look like a creative sperm. Time to get showered with moldy blown in. Yeah. So we'd already opened up one plank before lunch, just out of sheer curiosity and perhaps a touch of ADHD on Phil's part. So we were mostly prepared for what to expect.
Woo-hoo-hoo! This bay is totally clean.
Mm-hmm.
That bay's got some mold. Can't see
A little bit, barely. This one a bit more.
that one is fun. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to open it all up.
So we're once again going through and labeling everything, all of the planks, this time with duct tape held on by staples. Because the intention for the moment is to go back and put all of these planks back in place eventually. I don't see any good reason to leave them out off the wall. Of course, that plan is always subject to change depending on what decisions we make further down the road, but at the moment, it seems like why the heck not?
But what are your favorite foods to eat during a live event or a sporting event on TV?
It's an extra layer of insulation and structure. It's part of the house's history. It's also really nice original old growth wood, so it's super dense. It's naturally got more resin in it, which of course makes it more naturally resistant to mold growth. Plus all of the depths of things like the window boxes and trims and the door frames and everything, they are all calculated to include the depth of this wood. So it just feels like there's not a significant incentive to remove it permanently, even if we don't need it structurally. So just trying to be mindful of future Shannon and future Phil and labeling everything so that it can go back in place easily when the time comes. And here's a look inside that first panel. So the blown-in is, fairly well packed, but you can see it's harboring some mold growth back in there, which, again, building envelopes and insulating old buildings are a tricky thing to do properly. We'll get into this much later because, man, there's just so much that could be talked about, but basically, properly insulating an old house is far more invasive than just drilling some holes and shooting some blown-in insulation in there, at least if you want that house to remain healthy and standing decades from now. So we just went through and basically bagged up all of this insulation, trying as much as possible to pull it directly out of the cavity and into the bag to reduce the dust, although as you can clearly see, it is flying all over the place for sure. That is why we have the PPE on, and also it is just paper, it's just cellulose. At some point, I remember we opened these windows, despite the fact that it's actually very, very cold outside, just to create some airflow and help suck the last bit of the dust out of there. You can see I once again set up a nail removal station. This time all of our garbage bins were full of lath, so I had to substitute some of our plastic Tupperware? Rubbermaid? Plastic bins, if you will, and it became a combination vacuuming and denailing station, as well as making sure that the duct tape labels were well attached, and all of this made the storage of the boards just so much easier and more efficient. So I let Phil remove the boards, especially the ones from up high where I couldn't reach, while I took care of processing them all and then moving them to the corner of the room to get them out of the way.
Too much wind in there.
Now, you can see here that we're getting quite late in the day. We are starting to lose the light, but we've also got this sort of beautiful golden hour going on, which is pretty lovely. It definitely means the footage is getting a little bit darker, but it was a really nice ambiance to work in. And then this here is my favorite moment, a good old Phil life hack, using the shop vac to vacuum seal all of the insulation bags so they take up far less space. Also a pretty fun visual on camera. And then before we knocked off work completely for the evening, we just sat down and denailed, stacked, and packed all of that lath, which freed up the garbage bins, and also it just feels so good to come back to a clean room the next morning. We're back! And we've got brand new snazzy, blue, hopefully more durable suits to protect us. As we continue our work, we spent a lot of the day actually prepping this room, which used to be my office. Now we prepped it, as you can see, for some work because we're probably going to be busting into this room shortly. At least that little section right there. So let's go into the other room and I'll explain why. Also, we got some snazzy new zippers for our doors. That's kind of fun. Hopefully that protects, gives us a little easier in and out at least. Very fun. So this is a situation in this room. This is where we left it. We've still got some sheathing over here. We opened up, this corner, and then sheathing over here. So really didn't get that much work done. But the problem is that we want to continue to open up this wall today. This is the slanted wall of the gambrel roof. The lighting in here is quite difficult. All right, if I use my head to block the window, you can get a better idea what I'm talking about. The sheathing on the planking in this room, a lot of those planks continue on into the next room, which is the room that I was just in, the room that was my office. So in order to take them down, we had a couple options. Either we could cut them here, and then that would leave like a tiny little section in the next room that we'd have to take off pretty soon, eventually anyway, or we can open up just a tiny little section of this plaster here and try to get these planks off in one piece, which feels like the better option. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to continue we're going to open up that little section of the wall and continue taking off some planking and uncovering more mold with less than ideal lighting and a lot of dust. So I will try to film it as best I can, but no promises. So back on the other side of that wall, there's clearly some issues going on in this corner here. The wallpaper is peeling. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of water damage going on back there. So it's better to just open it all up and inspect, rip the Band-Aid off, as it were. Ooh, that's a look.
What?
They have drawstrings, and it makes you look really attractive. It's comical.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's a little too tight. Ah, whew, much better. Let's get to work.
Now, our goal was never to turn this into one giant room, as it has occasionally been suggested would be lovely. And it probably would be lovely, but let's remember who we're talking about here. This is me. I am a huge fan of closed concept, or as one of you viewers coined it, cozy concept. Here at Shannon Makes, we like enclosed rooms. We like dedicated spaces. So I would like this space to remain separate from the office space on the other side of the wall. So what we're doing in service of that is we're just carefully pulling off enough plaster to identify where the first complete stud is. And once we found that, we were able to very carefully mark in the middle of that stud. Then we scored the plaster vertically, just with a plain old utility blade, so that we could remove the plaster and it would break off until that score line. And that gave us a nice clean finish, which is going to be great if we do end up deciding to go back and patch this with drywall. If we decide to patch it with plaster, like I think would be grand, I'm gonna guess we're probably gonna have to actually rough up this cut some to kind of feather in the new plaster. But honestly, that's the kind of thing that it's gonna be really easy to go back in and do after the fact. I find it's much harder to wish you had left yourself a straight line, but not have done it in the first place. And here we go, a nice finished clean cut, and it's looking super sharp, albeit a little dusty. And then we went in with what I think is my favorite tool of all time, the oscillating tool. It's one of those things where you don't need it that often, but when you need it, it's the only tool for the job. And you can see here we're cutting just to the side of the nails. That's going to let us detach all of the lath to the right of the tool in small sections. Again, just trying to cause minimal damage to the wall and the remaining plaster, while also allowing us to access the planks on the right-hand side of the screen. And as I pull off the lath, you get a great view of the back of the other wall and all of the lovely plaster keys. So we managed to pretty successfully score and remove the plaster here. That should make for easier patching and, covering this wall back up down the road. And yeah, got all the lath off. It's very clean. It's looking very nice. That allowed us to confirm that this can be removed. It is not a load-bearing wall. If you follow it all the way up to the top there, you can see it is not even touching this board on top that's on the attic. So we can definitely get rid of those two boards right there, and then that will allow us to pull all of these planks off. So gonna just start work on the other side, but before we start knocking any lath down, I think we maybe need to do a little wallpaper investigation. And of course, this was only the outermost layer of wallpaper. We are all familiar with this from my office makeover last year. If not, do highly recommend going back to watch that. It was a really fun video and really nice to take a little break from the renovation to do a little bit of the interior design styling type stuff. But we also got a sneak peek in that video of what might potentially be hiding behind this top floral wallpaper, which, if I had to guess, was probably applied sometime in the 80s. So I was hoping to find some more of it, and I just started digging in right in this corner here with all the water damage, which meant that the wallpaper practically jumped off the wall at me, and not a big surprise to anybody, I don't think, but underneath here, definitely revealing our good old friend, mildew.
So that's not great. So there's probably like a water infiltration problem.
How damp does it feel?
Well, I have gloves and I'm not going to take them off, but like just look how loose the wallpaper is. So for sure. See? So we're obviously not going to keep this section, but it's all over the room. So if we found a section that was in good shape, all underneath. It's so cute!
Yeah, it was clearly a kid's room.
That's very cute! Ta-da! Look, we got a signature! Stephanie Eller's bedroom. That's so cool! I just found something really cool. I peeled off a section here, and if you look closely, you can see a signature. It looks like it says Stephanie Eller's bedroom. So cool. So we have actual definitive proof that this was some little kid's bedroom. At some point, I'll give you a close-up so you can see it here. That makes me so happy. Not only is it super cute wallpaper, but we actually found like someone's signature. So cool. So here on the side wall, because we had so much water damage and the wall itself is just kind of moist, it's allowing us to really peel away the layers in a way that I don't think we're going to be able to do as successfully in the rest of the room. So I'm taking a sec to try to expose the wallpaper that was under the ships. So this is some really old wallpaper, and I don't know if you can see it here, but it's very similar to the wallpaper we found behind the radiator in the bedroom. It's like very floral, almost hand-painted type look. And down here. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to be able to expose it anywhere else, and here it's really covered in mold.
lots of fun side quests, unexpected but delightful. We have found now a room full of pirate ships and children's signatures and so many fun layers of wallpaper that I cannot wait to dig into a little bit more carefully once we have more time, because now is not the moment. Now we need to actually start working on opening up that wall. So that is the next thing we're going to do after we eat some lunch. And depending on where I am in the editing process, you're either going to see that in a second or next week. Who knows? The new generation of YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, and then you can do slow motion. It takes more at a time. Follow Canal. That's what we need. We need to do Canal content on 8mm. Follow Canal when she jumps with a stick.
They'd watch it. The people would watch it.
Yeah.